things that won't be mentioned.
Done. But the beauty of us actually FaceTiming this is that, you can be like,
Right.
because cut it off or be like, shut up, whatever it may be.
I actually, wait. Listen to this.
What is that?
I have a sound pad. Like, I can pre-record things. So, like, I'm going to get one. I had one on here that said, shut up, Joe. I swear to God, I really did.
All right, man. Let's rock this.
All right, guys. What is up? It's your boy T here with my buddy Joe. We are two fishy dudes. This is our very first podcast, Joe.
Oh, man. It's finally happening.
It took long enough.
Yeah. It took long enough. No lie. It definitely took long enough. But we are finally here. Two fishy dudes.
Right. So if you're wondering who we are, feel free to go to Instagram, look up @Flywaters. That's me and Joe. Joe, I have to give him a lot of the credit for that. He's kind of built that thing into a monster. He's brought just an unreal fishing community together and, share stories and motivation and quotes. And then, of course, everybody's favorite Big Fish Friday. But we're the brainchilds behind Flywaters, and we're at our 5-year anniversary, Joe. What did we say we were going to do in 5 years?
This podcast right here.
This podcast right here. So welcome to Two Fishy Dudes. So with all that being said, we're going to kind of introduce ourselves a little bit, and then we're going to get into our topic for today. So, Joe, what do you got?
Well, first off, since it's a new podcast, I figured we'd open up with a nice little sip of drinks. So there it is. A little sip of drinks. Cheers. Cheers. Salud. It's great to finally be here and doing this. Tony and I go way back, or as he calls himself, T. We go way back in terms of fishing and stuff. We've had a lot of great moments together and good times and everything. And basically, I started fishing a long time ago, just conventional bass fishing, on the river and a pond, and with my dad, and enjoyed it so much. And fast forward to today, love fishing very much. Got into fly fishing,
2018, I think.
2018? Yeah, 2018.
Yeah.
I basically got into fly fishing in 2018 and absolutely fell in love with it. But I also realized how much I miss conventional fishing, so I love doing that as well. I just like catching stuff. That's what it boils down to. So,
you like catch. Joe's the epitome of chasing big fish.
Yes,
specifically one in particular. He has a favorite. Yeah,
yes, I am a sucker for a brown trout. I'm sorry.
Yeah, brown trout are your guilty pleasure.
Yeah, it is my guilty pleasure. I have been very successful in doing that over the years because of being a sucker so much for that fish. But I've had a lot of trial and errors and mishaps through that process.
I have been present for most of those.
True story. That is true story. He has been present. Some have been good. Some have been not so good. But hey, you know what? That's fishing.
Right. We got a lot of fish stories to tell.
Yes, we do. I've got a new favorite, though. I think it's the striper.
Really?
Yeah.
Even after the striper with diapers?
Yes. After catching my first striper with diapers on here recently on the fly, I really fell in love with that fish. There's just something about it. And also, every time that you and I go fishing together, basically you catch them on the first cast.
Hey, I was not throwing. I let you have it.
I know.
And you caught it on your third cast, by the way.
Yes, I did.
That's good.
If you have not seen this yet, go check out our Instagram page, and you will see the lovely striper with diapers on.
Yeah, at Two Fishy Dudes on Instagram. Go check it out. So
yes,
and there's the phone. I'm gonna leave that in there. It's cool.
Yeah, it's part of life,
right?
That's what happens, Really, I got 2 dogs in here right now while I'm doing this, so I'm just waiting for them to start going crazy on me.
So a little quick history on myself. Like Joe, I spent a lot of time fishing growing up. Grew up on Lake Lanier, spent a lot of time camping on Lake Hartwell, started tournament fishing at 14 years old, and it just kind of progressed. I mean, I just have had a love of water, love of nature, being outside and chasing fish. I've always kind of dabbled in fly fishing, conventional is kind of my thing. Bass fishing is me, Joe will tell you. My love affair is river bass of any kind. I mean, striper, I kind of include that in on that one, but river bass is my thing. I'm the warm water guy. Joe's the cold water guy, and I'm the warm water guy. So, but all that being said, yeah, Joe and I, we hooked up on some previous adventures prior to 2018, and we're just gonna kind of leave that prior to 2018. And when Joe decided to get into fly fishing, he's like, "Hey man, let's go fish." He's like, "I got a spot over here with Horseshoe Bend Park, Horseshoe Bend on the Toccoa, right?"
Yes, such a magical day on Horseshoe Bend. I will say that. I was thinking that I was going to have the success of being a better fisherman that day than Tony, because I thought, okay, Tony just does conventional fishing. I'm over here doing the fly fishing thing. I'm gonna outfish him today. So I thought. Well, boy, I was wrong. Yeah. This guy comes in looking like somebody from A River Runs Through It. Brad Pitt over here. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But I will say that's the one thing about you and I that I've enjoyed so much is we're very competitive when it comes to fishing with each other. And that's what makes it fun. I will say that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, so after 2018, we just kind of decided we were going to fly fish and build a monster of an Instagram, and it took us a long time to do it, but it's been a fun process, and I'm glad to be here at this point. This is our next big step, I feel like.
Yes, and I want to say real quick, the people listening to this, especially with Fly Waters, we want to say thank you so much to the support of our followers and everything else. They have just been phenomenal. We started this thing out, like you said, in 2018, and it was just a simple trial and error. And then we found a niche in good old Big Fish Friday, and it just absolutely exploded. And it's because of you followers out there is the reason why the page has become so successful. And Tony and I are truly appreciative for that.
Very.
And we love seeing everybody's post, and we want to see more posts. So if you're new here on the channel, or if you're new to the page, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and send us your pics. We would love to post them for you.
Absolutely. So now that we've got the Fly Waters plug done, Joe and I have spent the last 5 years building that, and we made ourselves a promise that in 5 years we were going to take that next step. And we have done a tremendous amount of work networking with people and building relationships and getting to fish with some pretty cool people along the way and seeing some pretty cool places, especially even just for the state of Georgia. And, Joe and I were just like, you know what? It's time for us to kind of broaden our horizons a little bit. So that I'm using that to kind of lead into our episode here, whereas this is a new beginning for us, and I want to tie that into fishing in general, which is kind of some of the things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about new waters and what's it like for us individually to go fish new waters. You take everything that you've learned over the last 5 years to go into this project, it being new for us. How does that correlate to going into fishing new waters? Like, what are the parallels here for you?
For me, it's the challenge and the adventure of new waters is what I really like. And anybody would agree with that, I feel like. If you go to a new river and you get out there, and the biggest thing is figuring out, okay, what am I dealing with? What are my obstacles? What is going to come out of this river that day? And that is the thing I have really enjoyed about, going to new waters. I've traveled a lot in Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Montana. I've spent a lot of time out in Montana. And let me tell you, that's some new waters. You get out in Montana and it's big new waters, new adventures, new challenges and stuff. But, if you can get out of there with a beautiful, 16-inch, 18-inch, 20-inch brown, or a nice bow out there, it's so rewarding. And it's the same here, in the South. If you can get, a nice brown or rainbow, just because of the challenges that you deal with, it's awesome, And that's the one thing that I really love about New Waters is that you can go there, you can be successful, you can, learn the challenges that were there, and, have it for next time that you come to that new water and say, okay, I remember that rock being there and I caught that nice fish, or I remember that tree, there was an awesome fish there, or I remember there was a stump that was in that water right there where I got hung up. I mean, let's all be honest. If we fished before, we're going to get hung up. We're going to lose, lines and everything else. And you know what? We could go to new waters and not even catch one fish. I mean, that's the truth too.
How many times have we done that?
Oh, I mean, I've done it a ton. I'm not one of these people that every time I go out fishing, I'm successful. I'm sorry, I'm not.
Yeah, we're not the guys that are running around with a fish counter clicking 80 fish on DH stock streams. Joe and I will say, I'm going to interject for just a second. Joe and I are the epitome of the weekend warrior sometimes, because Joe and I both work legit 2 full-time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I work for one company and work 2 full-time hours, whereas Joe's a full-time firefighter at 2 different departments. So, fishing is definitely a hobby for us, but I would think that, we're above average considering.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say I'm above average. I am far from ever being a professional fly fisherman, and I don't think
there's such a thing.
There is not such a thing. If there is, I would love for someone to send something to us or show us what a professional fly fisherman looked like and how much they get paid. Because the last I've checked, there's no such thing as a professional fly fisherman.
We've met some people that got endorsed, though. They get free stuff.
Yeah, getting free stuff's fine, but you being on a payroll to go fish, there's no such thing. Now, on the other side, people that are in the Bassmaster tournaments and everything else, that's totally different. But there's no such thing as a professional fly fisherman.
Right.
But and I'll say this real quick. The challenges that you deal with all the time with new waters is the elements, period. Because you've got Mother Nature, you've got the elements of the river, you've got other people that are going to be out there fishing. I mean, we all know this. Every time we've ever gone to new waters, all of a sudden somebody comes out of the woods out of nowhere. Hey, buddy, how you doing? You're like, where did this guy come from?
Right.
It never fails. I mean, you're fishing, you're by yourself, and then all of a sudden you look behind you, you got like 3 guys down the river from you or upriver, and you're just like, where did y'all come from? I mean you parked down the street like a mile and then walked into the woods, and you thought that you were going to be the only one there. I think that's funny.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But what are your thoughts on it there, T?
Well, for me, what I love about going to new water is it's going to be kind of weird, but I like the preparation. And I don't even mean like actually getting to the water. I'm talking about the studying the maps, doing your homework with locals and talking about access points and where you can get in and what to expect when you're, fishing out there and stuff and what to look for. Fishermen are notoriously secretive liars, but every so often you can, rub a palm the right way and shake a hand a certain way and say, okay, hey, I'm a legit guy. And somebody will slide you just the least little tidbit of information. And you can, if you're good, you can take that and you can run wild with it. Because a lot of the places that you and I have fished, I have had to find on a map and drive around and spend several days knocking on doors, going to stores and things like that and stuff. When it comes to river bass and stuff. Now, trout, on the other hand, we pretty much just stick to the trout fishing in Georgia is just, it is what it is. There's only so many places you can fish and everybody goes there. The blue liners that go in the summertime for the Wild Brooks and the Specs and stuff, they're I got to give them kudos. They do a lot more homework than we do. But let's just be honest, for the most part, we're in North Carolina, a couple of DX streams in Georgia, and the occasional, south of Lanier on the section between the dam and Highway 20. So
yeah, I agree. Recon is huge when it comes to new waters, and there's been many times that I've looked at things on Google and checked it out to see if it was going to be legit or access to get into it, making sure you were not on private property. Because I mean, there's been a couple of times we've been places where we're not supposed to be. I mean,
I plead the fifth.
well, no, I don't. I have actually been places where I've been told I wasn't allowed to be, and I was like, oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm gonna leave now.
Yeah.
But and everybody's done that. I don't care who you are. But even just conventional fishing on the lake, it's the same thing. And you know this obviously a lot more than I do. But recon is everything. Doing your homework on these lakes are everything.
I mean, let's go back to 2018, that year that Trent and I went on that roll when I quit tournament fishing. I mean, we fished like 4 tournaments, and we finished in the top 5 in 3 of those 4 tournaments, and winning a couple. And then I can't tell you the amount of hours of preparation that went into winning those tournaments. And even so much as having plan A, B, C, D, and then like if all else fails, you go to plan hero or zero. And we lost one on hero or zero, and we won one on hero or zero. So, there's a lot of preparation that goes into those kind of things, and it is. And a lot of people think you spend so much time on the water just looking, like you in fishing and stuff. You really don't. Like, you spend time looking at maps, and you spend time looking at weather and, trying to predict what the temperatures are going to do. Because we had one tournament that we tried to go hero or zero on because we literally pre-fished the day before, and it was sunny and 70. We get out there that next morning, and it is 25 degrees. And this is no joke. It was super, super cold. So, for me, like, it's things like that. Like, that's what I enjoy about going to new places, or even taking on a familiar body of water at a different time of year. New conditions, new this, new that. But yeah, the other part for me that I love about going to fish new places that I've never seen is the pageantry of, soaking in the environment, or, looking around at, how the water's different from the last place I fished, or one of my favorite places to fish. One place that Tyler and I found, I'm not going to say where it is, but we found a place that is public, and it is absolutely loaded with monster grass carp. And that's something else that we've got to do this year. There's coming spring, is get Joe on a big carp on a fly. That's fun. But it was just fun because we spent like a half a day literally just walking this place, and you see all these monster fish, and we're not even prepared to fish for them. We were looking for something else that day, and it's like we're way undergunned. We're toting 4 weights and poppers. Okay. We're not prepared for 30+ pound grass carp. It was one of those, like, we got to come back. So
yeah, it's definitely something I want to do with you guys. But you brought up a good point talking about the weather changes, because there's been times where you and I have gone fishing one day, we've absolutely crushed it, and then we go back the next day, and it was just completely horrible. Or it's been a situation where the conditions look great. It was sunny. There was no rain coming. The river was in perfect level where we needed to be and everything else. And we go out there, and it's just an absolute bust. And you sit there and ask yourself, why was it a bust? And then you start looking, okay, what was the moon patterns doing? Did it rain the day before, or is a front coming in? There's so many variables that happen. So, when you get to these new waters that you want to fish, you've got to put those things into play, because if you don't, you're going to get out there and it's going to be absolutely amazing, or it's going to be absolutely terrible. And then it's terrible, and you're like, well, forget this. Well, I don't want to go back here. And people usually give up on it. They don't want to do it again because it was such a bust. And you've got to realize, okay, yeah, it was a bust, but I'm going to go back and try it again. And that's actually happened to me, where I've been to a piece of water where it was a bust. And you as well have been to a spot where it was an absolute bust. And then you're like, you know what, let's try this again. Yeah. And then it turned into this wow factor of catching an amazing fish and everything else. So I think people need to just kind of realize that, don't give up on that first go round, because you never know.
So, continuing with the new waters subject, you're the trout guy. I know you're big on really any fish, but trout's kind of your thing. So if you're going to a new trout stream or you're going to a new section of a stream that you've not fished or whatever, what are three things? And I'm not talking about flies or whatever. What are three things that when you go like that? What are your go-to? Like three things that you got to have.
Got to have in terms of like fly equipment or just
all of it. What do you when on your persons when you go? What do you have to have?
Oh, my persons. Well, the first thing I do if I ever go to new water is just I literally sit there for about 10, 15 minutes and just watch the river. Honestly, I just see what activities is going on. I'm just seeing, you know, are they coming up top? You know, is there bugs flying around? You know, I just really kind of pay attention to the water. My favorite go-to fly that I always love to start out with is always a peach egg. That's just me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about it, but it's just always been very good for me. It may not even be egg season. There may not be even a reason to be throwing a peach egg. And I just go out there and try that first just to see what it does. And I've had some great success with a peach egg. I guess my third thing is that I carry with me is a cold drink and a can of Copenhagen. I mean, because one, you know, I want to stay hydrated, and two, you know, if the fish ain't biting, I put a dip in, and all of a sudden, magic happens. Right. I don't know. Yeah, that's just one of those things. I mean, you got to be superstitious. I don't care if you're fishing. I don't care if you're deer hunting, whatever it may be. I mean, people are so superstitious about stuff, and I'm the same way. So,
yeah.
What about you?
Well, I'm the camera guy of the two of us. So I always have some sort of camera apparatus on my persons at all time. Like that's number one. And as of late, since we've been doing the tag team of, you know, making sure we got a fly rod and also taking like a spinning reel or a bait caster, you know, and I've also been, we may cover this in a later episode, but I've also been doing stuff with Mag Lures, Extreme Lure Creations and stuff. He's a good friend of mine, guide on Lake Lanier and FLW tour guy and stuff. You know, I got to have my camera. I got to have my fly rod. And now it's like I kind of got to have my like fluke or my bait caster like all the time. And one of the things that I've learned, some of the places that I've fished, I've started fishing some maybe like heavier pressured areas. And I have found that I have to kind of go back to my like tournament days where I'm approaching things in a more stealthy manner, you know, having to have something to make those initial longer casts where like, it's kind of like, you know, playing golf. Like I'm starting long range and kind of working my way in. And I've gotten to where like, you know, my spinning rods are my long range stuff. And then as I start dialing in on what's going on, I still find myself gravitating to the fly rod. You know, for me, camera, my both rods, and a great backpack because I have to take so much with me. I have to have a great backpack. But that old one I keep taking is about tattered and beat up.
Yeah, so you talk about backpacks. I feel like Dora the Explorer. You know, I love
really
my.
Like it too.
I am. I love my Yeti backpack. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not endorsing them at all, but I'm just gonna say that waterproof Yeti backpack is something else. And the reason why is because I can attach a rod, whether it's a spin rod or a fly rod, on the side of the backpack and carry it with me when we're on the river and switch out at any time. But also, you and I are notorious for falling in the river, which that's a
mainly
different
me.
podcast.
Yeah, mainly me.
That's a future podcast we'll talk about. But you know, falling in the river, having that waterproof backpack has really just been money for me. But yes, I am totally 100% on board with taking two rods, one conventional and one fly rod, because there's times that I'm not the best caster in the world. Again, I'm not a professional fly fisherman. I am just out there to have a good time and catch fish. So there are times that, you know, I can't get a fly over there without spooking that fish. So what do? Switch out, grab the other rod, and cast over there, and hopefully be successful. And that's happened a lot this past summer, I will say.
Yeah, it's been nice, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been very nice.
The fish catch numbers have went up.
Yeah, I was very stubborn. I'm not going to lie.
You were.
I didn't want to do it for a long time. I was just solely set on, I'm going to catch this on a fly rod, catch this on a fly rod. And then, you brought both rods there for a while and started catching more fish and bigger fish. And I got jealous. So now I've got a spin rod.
But look, I feel you because, I had to put my pride aside as well, because how long have we been doing fly waters? And it's like, we just kind of got hard headed and we're like, we're just going to do everything on the fly. I'm going to catch it on the fly. I'm going to catch this on the fly. And it's like, you go and you do it and you catch fish and you're successful and stuff. But it's like, man, how much more could I catch if I was doing something that I just like for me, that's second nature, throwing jigs and crankbaits, spinnerbaits, top water, like that's just second nature. So, it took a little bit of convincing. I had to levy against him a little bit on a few things, but he finally broke down and did it. But he's absolutely just kind of took off with it this year. There's a couple times you've actually outfished me.
Yeah, I've had some really good days this spring and summer. I used to be a good old fashioned conventional Texas rig worm kind of guy, and I caught a lot of big bass back in the day when I did that. When I got into fly fishing, I started out as just the old indicator kind of deal, like everybody else, and I worked my way into learning how to Euro nymph, and that's my go-to now. I'm still learning a lot with the Euro nymphing, but I've been very successful with it. But that being said, that's the reason I kind of went back to conventional fishing as well, is because at the end of the day, Tony, you and I both know we're here to catch fish. That's the number one goal.
Look, I've only got 2 days off a week.
Right. You're right. And anybody else that works a 9-to-5 job, and they go out on the rivers on the weekends, they're there to catch fish.
Yeah.
They're not there to just say, oh, hey, I went fishing today. No, they want to say, hey, look, I went and caught fish today.
Exactly.
So we are the same way. I want to go catch fish. And if it means I've got to carry 2 rods with me in 2 different styles, that's what I'm going to do. Now, don't get me wrong. When come trout season, I don't really take a spin rod with me.
Absolutely not. No,
I'm not one of those guys that does that with the rooster tails and everything else. That's just not my style, and I'm not against it. I have, no judgment of it. It's just not my style. But when it comes to the bass deal, it's a little bit different. So that's the reason I choose to do it.
Well, I think we've covered a lot today for our first episode.
I think we have.
You got history, got a little history lesson, and then I feel like we covered a new subject pretty good. So this is something that we are going to consistently do in every episode, and I'm gonna give it to Joe for a minute and let him kind of have like the floor. So like whatever is on your mind right now, like it doesn't have to be fishing or anything. We're just gonna, each take just a minute or two. Let's try to keep it about a minute and speak on something that you can talk about for 60 seconds. And we're both going to do this at the end of each episode. So current events, anything, whatever's on your mind, God put something on your heart. This is your time to shine, Joe.
Oh, wow. So much pressure. I will say this about me. I've been fishing for a long time. I've met a lot of people in the fishing world that have helped me, and I'm truly grateful for that. And if they ever hear this podcast, they know who they are. I have put my pride aside to learn how to be a better fisherman, and it has paid off. But one of my greatest joys that I really like in this sport is watching other people catch fish.
Amen to that. I have to agree.
I just absolutely love it. Whether it's my wife, who I think, honestly, she outfishes me sometimes, my kids, or anybody else that I just see catch a fish for the first time, whether it's just conventional or on a fly rod or whatever. It just brings absolute joy to me, because I remember when I caught my first fish on a fly rod, and I remember the gentleman that was with me when that happened, and I was truly grateful for that. And I hope to pass that on to someone down the road that's fishing for the first time and help them out so they can do the same thing. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we got to do. If we don't continue to push this sport and conservation and everything else, it's going to be in trouble.
Exactly.
And, everybody knows what this generation, this world is right now. And I'm not going to get political because that's not what this is about. But I am going to say this: take kids fishing, take your daughters, take your wives, take people fishing, get out there and experience these things. And at the same time, take care of the rivers, take care of the lakes, the oceans, and places like that. Because if we don't, we're not going to have them.
Yeah. I agree.
So that's my spiel for today. And, I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, something I'm going to talk on real quick is it's something that has been brought to my attention as of late, just because, you and I have had some interactions with people who we have absolutely no idea who they are, but they're like, hey, you're those fly water guys. And we're like, yeah. And one of the things I want to talk about is respect among fishermen. And that goes as far as I love talking to people who follow us on Instagram and like have kept up with what we're doing or know a little bit about what we're doing. And you see them in the water and they're like, hey man, like what do I need to do? It takes zero effort to be genuinely sincere and kind to somebody and point them in the right direction. If you've had a good day on the water and you see somebody that's struggling, take 5 seconds of your time and say, hey man, like if you don't mind me asking, what are you doing? All right, well, can I help you? Because I just caught 10 or 12 down here. Or you see somebody on a trout stream and they're not catching fish and you've watched them for the last 30 minutes and they're not catching anything, but you are. How many times have you seen me cut my fly off the end of my line and give it to a stranger that has not catching fish or a kid? Something that I wish more people would be adamant about, especially fishermen, is just be kind to one another. It's okay to be secretive. It's okay to not want to share a whole lot of information. But at the same time, this goes along with what you're saying. If we don't take care of each other and take care of, our fishing areas and our rivers, lakes, and everything, like what are we really doing? Why are we out there? Because, okay, for guys, it's okay to be competitive at everything. But at the end of the day, we're all fishermen. We're all fighting for the same thing, and that is to have a place to fish. And the more people you can keep interested or get interested in fishing, which is kind of for me the purpose of this podcast and stuff, is the more successful you're going to be in everything. So I think for me the most important thing is just be respectful of each other and be supportive. Doesn't matter what you're doing, be supportive.
Amen to that.
So. Well, we're going to wrap this up, guys. If you like the podcast, let us know. If you don't mind, give us a follow on Instagram at 2fishydudes. You can also check out at Fly Waters, where we post 5 days a week there. At 2fishydudes, we're getting up to about 3 to 4 times a week. We're going to be pushing a lot of the small business product, what we do in our spare time, our fishing adventures, but mostly we're going to be pushing the podcast. So. With that being said, thank you guys for listening. Joe, you got anything?
Yeah. Also, please feel free to give us feedback. Like Tony said.
Absolutely. Feedback.
If you like it, great. Tell us you like it. If you don't like it,
tell us why.
Let us know. Tell us why.
Tell us why. We're not proud. We are not proud at all.
No. And that's the thing. And I'm going to say this real quick is that, everybody's got an opinion.
I have
Don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to share your opinion with us. You're not going to hurt our feelings, I promise you.
No.
So.
Not at all. I work in construction and Joe's a firefighter. Trust me, we have the thickest skin available.
Yes. So, that being said,
we out.
We out.
We out. We gone. Let's go.
Deuces.
Bye.